I opened the door expecting the FedEx guy. Instead, my ex-wife stood there with 2 police officers and a woman in a pantsuit holding a briefcase. "Mr. Patterson," the woman said, flipping open a badge. "I'm Sandra Chen from Child Protective Services. We need to talk about your son." My hand tightened on the doorframe. My son. "Your son, Ethan," my ex-wife, Rebecca, said. Her voice cracked with practiced emotion. "The boy you've been hiding from me for 8 years. The smaller officer stepped forward. "Sir, we have a court order here. We need to verify the welfare of the minor child residing at this address." I looked past them to the driveway, where my truck sat next to Ethan's beat-up Honda. The bumper sticker he'd put on last week was still there. Juilliard, class of 2026. That's when I understood. She'd found out about the scholarship. 8 years. It had been 8 years since Rebecca walked out of our lives, and she picked today to come back. The day after the acceptance letter arrived. The day after the local news ran that story about Ethan, the musical prodigy who overcame autism to earn a full scholarship to America's most prestigious music school. Not a full scholarship, actually. Full scholarship plus a $175,000 merit grant for exceptional talent and perseverance. Funny how she never called when Ethan was 10 and couldn't tie his own shoes. Funny how she never showed up when he was 12 and had a meltdown so severe at the grocery store that I had to carry him out while people stared and whispered. Funny how she never sent a birthday card or a Christmas present or a single damn text message to ask how he was doing. But now, suddenly, she was here, with lawyers and social workers and police officers. "I want to see my baby," Rebecca said, and I watched a single tear roll down her cheek. Good performance. She'd practiced that. "Ma'am," I said slowly, "you haven't seen Ethan since he was 10 years old."
"Because you wouldn't let me!"
Her voice rose.
"You moved! You changed your number! You kept him from me!"
The CPS worker cleared her throat. "Mr. Patterson, we take parental alienation very seriously. If you've been preventing—" "I have an attorney on speed dial," I interrupted. "You're welcome to come inside and wait while I call him. Or you can come back with a real warrant, not whatever paper you're waving around. But either way, this conversation happens with my lawyer present." Rebecca's face hardened. The tears stopped like someone had turned off a faucet. "You think you're so smart, don't you, David? You think you can just steal my son and—" "Dad?" We all turned. Ethan stood in the doorway behind me, his noise-canceling headphones around his neck, his Juilliard acceptance letter still in his hand. He was tall now, almost 6 feet, but he still had that careful way of moving, like he was constantly calculating the space around him. He looked at Rebecca. His face went blank, that flat expression he got when he was trying to process something unexpected. "Who is that?" he asked me. Not, "Why is Mom here?" Not, "What's going on?" Just, "Who is that?" Because he genuinely didn't recognize her. Rebecca made a sound like she'd been punched. "Ethan, baby, it's me. It's Mom." Ethan looked at me, his eyes searching mine for context, for explanation, for the pattern that would make this make sense. That was how his brain worked. He needed the logic, the structure, the reason behind things. "The woman who left when you were 10, I said quietly. "Remember? We talked about her sometimes." His face cleared with understanding. "Oh, the one who said she couldn't handle me anymore. The one who wanted to put me in the home." He looked back at Rebecca with mild curiosity, like she was a historical figure he'd read about. "Why is she here?" "Because I made a mistake." Rebecca pushed forward, but the larger officer held up a hand. "Ethan, I was sick back then. I was depressed and overwhelmed, and I thought you'd be better off with your father. But I never stopped loving you. I never stopped thinking about you. I've been trying to find you for years." Ethan processed this. "You have my phone number. Dad never changed it." I hadn't. Our number was the same one we'd had since Ethan was born. It was in Rebecca's phone. It was on the divorce papers. It was in the court records. Rebecca's lawyer stepped forward. "Mr. Patterson, my client has been trying to contact you for months. You've refused to return calls or emails." "I've received exactly 0 calls or emails from anyone claiming to represent Ms. Holloway," I said. "But I'm sure you have documentation of all these attempts, right? Phone logs, email threads, certified letters?" The lawyer's jaw tightened. "That's what I thought," I said. The CPS worker looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Patterson, regardless of the communication issues, we need to ensure that the child is safe and—" "The child is 18, I said. "He's legally an adult. So unless you have evidence of a crime, we're done here." "I filed for custody modification," Rebecca said desperately. "Before his birthday. He was still 17. The court has to consider my petition." "You filed 3 days before his 18th birthday," I said. "After 8 years of 0 contact. After the Juilliard story ran in the Sacramento Bee. After the scholarship amount was made public." I looked directly at her. "You really think a judge won't see through that?" Ethan touched my arm. "Dad, my practice window is starting. Mr. Chen said I need 4 hours minimum today if I want to be ready for the showcase." Even now, even with his biological mother standing in front of him with police officers and lawyers, even with this chaos erupting around him, Ethan was thinking about his practice schedule.
Because that's who he was. That's who he'd become, despite Rebecca's abandonment. Maybe because of it. "Go ahead, buddy," I said. "I've got this." He nodded and headed back inside. We heard his footsteps on the stairs, heard his bedroom door close. Heard, a moment later, the sound of piano music floating down. Chopin. Ballade No. 1 in G minor. The piece he was performing at his final showcase next month. The piece that had made 3 different Juilliard professors cry during his audition. Rebecca stood there listening, her face doing complicated things. "He plays," she whispered. "Yeah," I said. "He plays." "I didn't know he was musical." "You didn't know a lot of things." I kept my voice level. "You didn't know that he started talking again at 12. You didn't know that he learned to read social cues by studying YouTube videos of human interactions. You didn't know that he spent 2 years learning to make eye contact without panicking. You didn't know that he used to have nightmares about the institution you wanted to send him to." Her face went white. "Yes," I said. "He remembers that conversation. He was 10, not stupid. He heard you tell me that you couldn't do it anymore, that he needed to be somewhere with professionals, that you were tired of having a broken kid." "I never said broken." "You said defective." The word tasted like acid. "You said he was defective, and you couldn't spend your life taking care of someone who would never be normal." The police officers looked uncomfortable. The CPS worker was making notes on her tablet. Rebecca's lawyer cleared his throat. "Mr. Patterson, my client was suffering from severe postpartum depression." Ethan was 9 when she left, 10 when she filed for divorce. That's a hell of a long postpartum period. "Postnatal depression can last—" "I don't care," I cut him off. "I don't care what her excuse is. I don't care if she was depressed or overwhelmed or whatever story she's selling now. She left. She signed away her parental rights. She agreed to supervised visitation only if she completed a parenting course and a psychological evaluation. She never did either one." I pulled my phone out of my pocket, pulled up my email,
Found the message from my lawyer that I'd been saving for 8 years, just in case this day ever came. She has no legal standing, I said, showing the screen to the CPS worker. She voluntarily terminated her rights. The court order is right here. She gets nothing. No custody, no visitation, no say in his life. She signed it all away. The worker read the document. Her expression shifted. She looked at Rebecca with something close to disgust. "Miss Holloway," she said slowly, "you filed a false report. You claimed parental alienation when you voluntarily terminated your rights. That's a serious offense." Rebecca's lawyer jumped in. "My client was coerced into signing those papers. She was vulnerable. She was struggling. She was living with her boyfriend in Tahoe," I said. "She sent me selfies from the ski slopes while I was at home trying to figure out why Ethan wouldn't eat anything except plain pasta and chicken nuggets. She texted me about her new job, her new life, how free she felt. I have all the messages, every single one." I looked at Rebecca. "You want to do this? You want to go to court? We can do that. We can drag out every message, every email, every piece of evidence that shows you abandoned your son because he wasn't the perfect kid you wanted. We can put Ethan on the stand and have him explain in front of a judge how his mother made him feel like he was something wrong that needed to be fixed or hidden away. We can do all of that." The piano music swelled upstairs. Ethan had moved into the difficult middle section, the part where most pianists stumbled. He played it flawlessly. "Or," I said quietly, "you can leave. You can walk away like you did 8 years ago, and this time, you can stay gone." Rebecca's face crumpled. Real tears this time, I thought, real emotion. But it wasn't regret or love or maternal instinct. It was anger. Anger that she'd lost. Anger that her plan hadn't worked. Anger that the broken kid she'd thrown away had turned into someone remarkable without her. "You don't understand," she said. "I was young. I was scared. I didn't know how to handle a special needs child. He's not special needs anymore." The words came out harder than I intended. "He's exceptional. He's brilliant. He's talented and kind and stronger than either of us will ever be. And you don't get to claim any credit for that. You don't get to show up now and pretend you had anything to do with who he's become." I stepped back. "Officer, I want these people off my property. I want a restraining order filed. And if Ms. Holloway comes near my son again, I want her arrested for harassment." The CPS worker closed her tablet. "Mr. Patterson, I apologize for the intrusion. We have to follow up on all reports, but it's clear that this was a malicious filing. We'll note that in our records." She looked at Rebecca. "Ma'am, filing false reports is a crime. I suggest you consult with your attorney about the potential consequences." Rebecca opened her mouth, closed it, looked at me with something that might have been hate. "The scholarship money," she said finally. "It should be split. I have rights." "You have no rights," I said. "The scholarship is in Ethan's name. The grant money goes directly to Juilliard for his tuition and living expenses. You don't get a cent." "I'm his mother." "No," I said. "You're the woman who gave birth to him. I'm his parent. There's a difference." They left. Finally, after more threats and bluster from the lawyer, after more tears from Rebecca, after the CPS worker promised to follow up with an official report clearing me of any wrongdoing, they all climbed back into their cars and drove away. I stood on the porch, watching until they disappeared. The piano music stopped upstairs. A moment later, Ethan came down. He stood next to me, looking out at the empty driveway. "Is she going to come back?" he asked. Not if I have anything to say about it. Good. He paused. I remember her, you know. Not her face, really. But I remember the feeling. Like I was always doing something wrong just by existing. My chest hurt. You were never wrong, I said. You were exactly who you were supposed to be. I know that now, he glanced at me. Because you made sure I knew it. We stood there for a while, not talking, just being present. That was something we'd learned together over the years. Ethan didn't always need words.
Sometimes he just needed to know someone was there. "Dad?" he said eventually. "Yeah, buddy?" "The scholarship money. You know it's not really $175,000, right? I mean, it is, but Juilliard costs way more than that. With living expenses and everything, it's more like $300,000 total for 4 years." "I know." "And you know I looked into student loans. And even with the scholarship, I'd still need about $125,000 more, which is why I've been applying for every grant and competition I can find." "Ethan." He stopped. "I've been saving," I said, "since you were 10. Since the day your mom left. Every overtime shift, every bonus, every tax return. It's all there. In an account with your name on it." His eyes went wide. "How much?" "Enough," I said. "Enough for all 4 years. Enough so you don't have to worry about money or loans or working while you're trying to study. Enough so you can just focus on being the amazing musician you are." He stared at me. His face did that thing where he was trying to process big emotions, trying to find the right response, trying to figure out what a normal person would say in this situation. "That's..." he swallowed. "That's a lot of money, Dad. You're worth it. But you could have used it for yourself. You could have retired early or bought a new truck or..." "I used it exactly how I wanted to use it," I said. "I invested it in you. Best investment I ever made." He was crying now, silent tears running down his face. He didn't wipe them away. He'd learned that was okay, that crying didn't mean weakness, that emotions were just data your brain was processing. "Come here," I said, and pulled him into a hug. He hugged back, fierce and tight, the way he'd learned to do after years of occupational therapy and patient practice. The way he'd been afraid to do when he was 10, because touch felt overwhelming and wrong. "I'm going to make you proud," he said into my shoulder. "You already have," I told him. "Every single day." We pulled apart. He wiped his eyes, gave me that small smile that meant he was okay, and headed back upstairs to finish his practice. I went inside and called my lawyer. "Marcus," I said when he picked up. "Rebecca showed up today with CPS and police. She tried to claim parental alienation." Marcus swore. "Did she get anywhere?" "No, I showed them the termination papers. But she's claiming she was coerced, that she wants custody modification, all of it. She doesn't have a leg to stand on. Ethan's 18, it's moot. She filed 3 days before his birthday, while he was still a minor." Silence. Then, "That's actually clever. Legally, the petition might still be valid because it was filed before he reached majority age." My stomach dropped. "So she could win?" "No," Marcus said firmly. "No judge is going to grant custody of a legal adult to a parent who's been absent for 8 years. But she might be able to drag this out. Make it expensive. Make it painful." "Let her try," I said. "I've got documentation of everything. Every text, every email, every missed birthday, every broken promise. 8 years of evidence that she didn't give a damn until there was money involved." "Good," Marcus said.
Hold on to all of it. And David, document everything from here forward, too. If she tries to contact Ethan, if she shows up at the house again, if she so much as sends a Facebook message, I want to know about it. Will do. I hung up and stood in the kitchen for a long moment, listening to the piano upstairs. Chopin had given way to Rachmaninoff now. Prelude in C-sharp minor, one of the hardest pieces in the classical repertoire, and Ethan played it like he was breathing. My phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. I'm not giving up. He's my son, too. I blocked her number. 3 weeks later, we were in court.
The courtroom was exactly what I'd expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, that particular smell of old paper and anxiety. Rebecca sat at the plaintiff's table with her lawyer, wearing a conservative navy dress and minimal makeup. She looked like a concerned mother. She looked like someone who gave a damn. Marcus sat next to me at the defendant's table, his laptop open, 3 thick folders of documents stacked in front of him. Ethan sat in the gallery behind us. He'd wanted to come. Said he needed to see this, needed to face it. He was wearing the suit we'd bought for his Juilliard interview, charcoal gray, crisp white shirt, purple tie because purple was his favorite color, and he didn't care if it wasn't traditional. The judge was a woman in her 60s, Judge Patricia Moreno. She had short gray hair and glasses on a chain around her neck. She looked tired. This is a petition for custody modification filed by Rebecca Holloway, she said, reading from her screen. Regarding the minor child Ethan Patterson, born March 15, 2006. She looked up. Except the child in question is now 18 years old. Someone want to explain to me why we're here? Rebecca's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client filed this petition on March 12th, 3 days before the child's 18th birthday. At the time of filing, he was still a minor, which means this court has jurisdiction to hear the case. Judge Moreno looked unimpressed. Counselor, you know as well as I do that custody modifications require a showing of best interest. The best interest of a legal adult is not for this court to determine. Your Honor, my client has been systematically denied access to her son for 8 years. She's asking this court to recognize the parental alienation that occurred and to— Did you read the case file before you walked in here? Judge Moreno interrupted. The lawyer blinked. Your Honor? The file. Did you read it? She was looking at him over her glasses now. Because it says here that Ms. Holloway voluntarily terminated her parental rights in 2018. It says she agreed to supervised visitation only after completing a parenting course and psychological evaluation. It says she completed neither. It says she missed every scheduled visitation for 6 months before the caseworker closed the file. Rebecca leaned forward and whispered something to her lawyer. Your Honor, he said, my client was suffering from severe depression at the time. She was coerced into signing those papers. She didn't understand. Was she represented by counsel? Yes, but did she sign the documents of her own free will? Under duress. What duress? Judge Moreno was getting annoyed now. I could tell. Was someone threatening her? Was she being blackmailed? Or did she simply decide that raising a child with autism was too hard and she wanted out? The courtroom went silent. Rebecca stood up. Your Honor, Sit down, Ms. Holloway. Your lawyer is speaking for you. Rebecca sat. The judge looked at Marcus. Defense? Marcus stood. Your Honor, my client has been the sole custodial parent of Ethan Patterson for 8 years. During that time, Ms. Holloway has made 0 attempts to contact her son. She's paid no child support. She's sent no birthday cards, no Christmas presents, no acknowledgement that this child exists. Until
He paused for effect. Until 3 days before Ethan's 18th birthday, which happened to be 2 days after a news article ran about his full scholarship to Juilliard, including a merit grant of $175,000. Judge Moreno's eyebrows went up. Is that so? Yes, Your Honor. We have documentation. Marcus opened one of the folders.
We have the news article dated March 10th. We have Ms. Holloway's petition filed March 12th. We have records showing that Ms. Holloway called the school district on March 11th asking for information about Ethan's enrollment and academic records. We have—
I get the picture, Judge Moreno said. She looked at Rebecca. Ms. Holloway, I'm going to ask you a direct question, and I want you to answer it honestly. Why are you here? Rebecca stood again. This time, the judge didn't tell her to sit. Because he's my son, Rebecca said. Her voice was steady. Because I made mistakes, and I've spent 8 years regretting them, and I want a chance to be his mother again. Did you know about the scholarship before you filed this petition? Rebecca hesitated. I saw the article, yes. But that's not why. When was the last time you tried to contact your son before you saw that article? Another hesitation. It had been a while. How long? A few years. How many years, Ms.
Holloway? Rebecca looked at her lawyer. He gave a tiny shake of his head.
8 years,
she admitted finally. Since the divorce. Judge Moreno sat back in her chair. So you haven't spoken to your son in 8 years. You voluntarily terminated your parental rights. You completed none of the requirements set by this court for visitation. You paid no child support. You sent no communication whatsoever. And then you saw a news article about a scholarship, and suddenly you wanted to be a mother again. It's not like that. Then what is it like, Ms. Holloway? Help me understand. Rebecca's composure cracked. He's my son. I carried him. I gave birth to him. I have rights. You had rights, Judge Moreno corrected. You signed them away, voluntarily, with legal counsel present. I was depressed. I was overwhelmed. Rebecca's voice broke. I couldn't handle him. He was so difficult, so different. I didn't know what to do. The courtroom was deadly quiet. So you left, Judge Moreno said softly.
I thought it would be better for him,
Rebecca whispered.
I thought David could give him what he needed. I thought—
You thought it would be easier for you, the judge said.
And it was. Until you realized that your difficult, different child had become someone remarkable, someone successful, someone with money attached to his name.
That's not fair.
Life isn't fair, Miss Holloway. Your son learned that at 10 years old when his mother abandoned him.
Judge Moreno looked at her notes. It says here that Ethan Patterson is autistic, that he's had significant challenges with social skills, sensory processing, and emotional regulation, that he required intensive therapy and support throughout his childhood. She looked up. Who provided that support? Rebecca was crying now.
David did.
But I didn't know how. Who took him to occupational therapy 3 times a week for 4 years?
David.
Who sat with him during meltdowns? Who learned to cook the 7 foods he would eat? Who spent $12,000 on a piano and lessons because music was the one thing that helped him communicate? Rebecca didn't answer. David, Judge Moreno said. David did all of that. David was the parent. You were just the woman who left. Marcus stood again. Your Honor, we'd like to call Ethan Patterson to testify. I turned around. Ethan was already standing, making his way to the front of the courtroom. He walked past Rebecca without looking at her, sat in the witness chair, put his hands flat on his knees, his grounding technique, the thing he did when he needed to stay calm. The bailiff swore him in. Marcus approached. Ethan, how old are you? 18, as of March 15th. Do you remember your mother? Ethan looked at Rebecca for the first time, studied her face. Vaguely. I remember feelings more than specific events.
I remember feeling like I was always doing something wrong. Can you elaborate? I remember her sighing a lot. I remember her telling my dad she couldn't do this anymore. I remember her saying I needed to be in a special school, a place where people knew how to handle kids like me. He paused. I remember her using the word defective. Rebecca made a sound like a wounded animal. What happened after your mother left? Marcus asked gently. Dad and I figured it out together. He learned about autism, read books, joined support groups, found therapists who understood. He never made me feel like I was broken or wrong. He just helped me learn to navigate a world that wasn't built for me. And the piano? Ethan's face lit up. The piano was the first time I felt like I could express what I couldn't say with words. Dad drove me to lessons every week, even when he was working 2 jobs. He'd sit outside the studio for an hour, just waiting. He never missed a single lesson, not once in 8 years. Have you had any contact with your mother during those 8 years? No. None at all? None. How did you feel when she showed up 3 weeks ago? Ethan thought about this. Confused. And then, once I understood why she was there, I felt sad, I guess. Sad that she thought I was something worth claiming now that there's money involved. Sad that she doesn't understand that the money doesn't matter. The scholarship isn't why I'm valuable. My music isn't why I'm valuable. I'm valuable because I'm a person. Dad always knew that. She never did. Marcus nodded. Do you want a relationship with your mother? No, Ethan said simply. I don't know her. She's a stranger. And the things she said about me when I was a kid, I remember those. I don't want someone in my life who thought I was defective. Thank you, Ethan. Marcus sat down. Rebecca's lawyer stood. He looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Ethan, your mother says she was suffering from depression when you were young. Do you think that might have affected her judgment?
Maybe, Ethan said. But she's had 8 years to get treatment and reach out. She didn't. So either she's still depressed and hasn't addressed it, which means she's still not capable of parenting, or she was never actually depressed and just didn't want me. Either way, I don't want her in my life. The lawyer had no follow-up questions. Judge Moreno looked at Ethan. Young man, I want you to know that this court recognizes your autonomy as a legal adult. Whatever I decide today, you have the right to choose who you allow in your life. Your mother can't force a relationship with you. I understand, Ethan said. Thank you. He stepped down, walked back to his seat. I reached over the railing and squeezed his hand. Judge Moreno looked at her notes for a long moment. Then she looked at Rebecca. Ms. Holloway, I'm going to be very direct with you. This petition is denied. You have no legal standing to seek custody of a legal adult. But more than that, you have no moral standing to claim rights you voluntarily surrendered. Rebecca started to speak, but the judge held up a hand. I've seen a lot of cases in my 30 years on the bench. I've seen parents who made mistakes and worked hard to fix them. I've seen parents who struggled and asked for help. I've seen parents who put their children's needs above their own pride and comfort. She paused. You are not one of those parents. Your Honor, you abandoned your son when he needed you most. You walked away because he was difficult, because he didn't fit your image of what a child should be. And now that he's overcome those difficulties, without you, despite you, you want to claim him. You want to benefit from his success. You want to be the mother who raised a Juilliard scholar, when in reality you're the mother who called her autistic child defective and left him behind.
Judge Moreno signed something on her tablet.
Petition denied. Ms. Holloway, you are hereby barred from contacting Ethan Patterson in any form without his express written consent. If you violate this order, you will be held in contempt. Do you understand? Rebecca was crying, but she nodded. Furthermore, the judge continued, I'm ordering you to pay Mr. Patterson's legal fees in this matter. You filed a frivolous petition that wasted this court's time and resources. That has consequences. She looked at me. Mr. Patterson, you're to be commended. Raising any child is hard. Raising a child with special needs, alone, is harder than most people can imagine. Your son is a testament to your love and dedication. I hope you're very proud. My throat was tight. I am, Your Honor. Every day. This hearing is concluded. The gavel came down. We walked out of the courthouse into bright spring sunshine.
Bet and Ethan stood on the steps, taking deep breaths, letting the sounds and sensations wash over him. Traffic noise, bird calls, the warmth of sun on skin. All the things that used to overwhelm him, that he'd learned to process and even appreciate. You okay? I asked. Yeah, he looked at me. That was intense. You did great in there. I just told the truth. That's all you ever have to do. Marcus came out behind us, briefcase in hand. Well, that went better than expected. Judge Moreno doesn't mess around. What happens now? I asked. Now? Nothing. It's over. Rebecca has no legal recourse. She can't appeal. There's nothing to appeal. Ethan's an adult. He made his wishes clear, and the judge agreed. He grinned. She'll probably try to contact him anyway at some point. They always do. But legally, we're solid. Thank you, Marcus. My pleasure. Take care of yourselves. He shook my hand, nodded at Ethan, and headed to his car. Ethan and I stood there for a moment. I'm hungry, he said finally. I laughed. Of course he was. What do you want? Thai food. The place near the house. Done. We walked to the truck, climbed in, started the drive home. Halfway there, Ethan said, Dad? Yeah? Do you think she really believed she loved me? Back when I was little? I thought about that. I think she loved the idea of you, the baby she imagined having. But when you turned out to be different than she expected, she couldn't adapt. Some people can't. Do you think she loves me now? I think she loves what you've become. The accomplishment, the scholarship, the success story. I glanced at him. But that's not the same as loving you. He nodded slowly. I don't feel bad about cutting her out. You shouldn't. You get to choose your family. Biology doesn't obligate you to anything. You're my family, he said. Yeah, buddy, I am. We pulled into the Thai place, ordered too much food, like always, drove home, ate dinner while Ethan told me about his practice schedule for the next month, about the showcase, about his pre-orientation packet from Juilliard that had arrived that morning. After dinner, he went upstairs, started playing. Beethoven tonight. Moonlight Sonata, third movement. Fast and furious, and technically perfect.
I sat on the couch, listening, thinking about the last 8 years, thinking about the first day Rebecca left, when Ethan had a meltdown that lasted 4 hours because his routine was disrupted. Thinking about the night he finally called me Dad instead of Father, because he'd learned that was more socially typical. Thinking about his first successful play date, his first school concert, his first time ordering food at a restaurant without having a panic attack. Thinking about the day he came home and told me he'd been accepted to Juilliard, his face glowing with pride and disbelief. Thinking about how none of that would have happened if Rebecca had stayed.
How her absence, as painful as it was, had given us the space to figure things out on our terms.
How her leaving was, in its own terrible way, the best thing she could have done for him. My phone buzzed, a text from Rebecca's lawyer. My client would like to arrange a private meeting with her son to apologize. I deleted it. My phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. Please, David, I just want to talk to him. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I blocked it. The piano music swelled upstairs. Ethan had moved on to Debussy now. Clair de Lune. Beautiful and melancholy and perfect. I closed my eyes and listened. This was my life. This was our life. Just the two of us, like it had been for 8 years, like it would be for however long Ethan needed me. And when he left for Juilliard in the fall, when he started his life in New York, I'd be proud and sad and excited all at once. But I wouldn't be afraid, because I'd done my job.
I'd raised him to be strong and independent and confident in who he was. I'd been the parent he needed, and that was enough. That was everything.